What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Check the Kick podcast. I am on Sherdog.com. Pretty cool website. You should check it out sometime. If you haven't, shame on you. How'd you even get here? Pretty interesting weekend of really one fight only that anyone really cares about. And we'll just get right into it. First segment of the show, out with the old. Tyson Fury defeats Francis Ngannou in a semi-controversial split decision. Tyson Fury was knocked down in the third round. Tyson Fury was a minus 1,400 favorite going into this fight. And by the time the ninth or 10th round started, Francis was a minus 240 favorite. I'm just going to say this here, and this is one of the biggest me eating crow moments in quite some time that I can truly remember. I didn't talk tons of shit publicly, but in some private conversations, I definitely talked some shit about Francis Ngannou and his decision making and the handling of the kind of twilight of his career, you could say. But boy, was I fucking wrong. He showed up. He showed out. He fought well. He fought smart. He took advantage of a guy that seemed to not take him very seriously. I will be very outright and say that this was a very poor performance by Tyson Fury. He did not look well. I don't think he took Tyson Fury I don't think Tyson Fury took Francis Ngannou seriously at all. I think he showed up and thought he was going to fight a worse and weaker version of someone maybe like a Deontay Wilder. And I think he just showed up to Saudi Arabia to try to grab a quick check. This fight was very weird. Day before the fight, it wasn't on BoxRec. This was supposed to be a exhibition bout. And then like 5 hours before the fight started, all of a sudden it was a professional bout. Tyson was probably like, what the hell? This is a pro fight now? My gosh. Either way, I do think it definitely at the end it became a lose-lose situation for Tyson Fury because he lost a lot of credibility in this fight. A lot of people on Twitter, social media, Instagram, all those places are saying Francis Ngannou won the fight. Look, it was a very, very close fight. Tyson Fury definitely got dropped and hurt in the third round. And I would say Francis had bigger small moments in the fight, but I would say Fury probably had longer stretches of winning, but by smaller margins. There was moments in the later rounds where Ngannou was landing combinations on Fury, and Fury was just kind of bobbing. You could tell he seemed kind of hurt. Francis did a lot of things right, and Fury did a lot of things wrong, in my opinion. Number one, I think, and I didn't see this coming, where I thought personally Fury was going to have a lot more success in the clinch, kind of just leaning and hanging all over Francis. Shout out to Francis for having his cardio shirt up. Not sure how old he is. Hold on one moment. Let's take a look and see how old exactly Francis Ngannou is. Yeah, so Francis is 37 years old. He came into this fight heavy too, but he looked fucking shredded. He's 37. Fury came in at about 277, and I think Francis came in at right around there, maybe 272 or something like that. I thought Fury was going to have a lot more success in the clinch. He would land power shots from distance on his opponents like Deontay Wilder, and then kind of get in the clinch, crowd the space, and remove the power punching. But Francis fought this fight really smart. He hung back. He relied on his durability, and he was counterpunching. That big power left hook that he dropped Fury with kind of wrapped around the guard and hit him behind the ear. Definitely messed with his equilibrium. Tyson Fury is a semi-durable fighter. I think that was his 7th time being dropped in his pro boxing career. Something that needs to be also said is shout out to Tyson Fury for fighting Deontay Wilder 3 times and then fighting Francis Ngannou. Those are the hardest punchers in the last, 50 years of combat sports. And he's faced both of the heaviest punchers. And that does take a lot of bravery for a guy like him. Back to Fury and his game. I thought he was going to hang all over Ngannou. Ngannou seemed to be so strong in the clinch, where usually Fury is able to just kind of mug people in the clinch. And I should have spotted this. Francis's MMA game actually helped him a lot in these clinch situations where they would tie up and immediately Francis is getting the overhook and just boom, boom, firing uppercuts right away. Really, really impressive. There was a moment where Francis even uppercut himself. That was pretty funny. He was also crowding the space, and anytime there was a moment where Fury would kind of, maybe throw a combination and miss, Francis was immediately firing back and then crowding the space. He pressured well. His cardio looked really, really good in this fight. I don't think Fury fought the best fight. There's just other routes for him to win. I was surprised he didn't just stick a jab in his face and use his footwork and kind of circle on the outside. Maybe it was because he got buzzed so early. But he was even, in the first round, he sat down and hit Francis with the shot, and Francis seemed to be unbothered. And really, I've only ever seen Francis buzz once in a fight, and it was in the second Stipe fight where Stipe took the back foot and then, boom, fired straight down the pipe, wobbled Francis, caused Francis to reset. But then Francis went out there and kind of just murked him right after. It was similar to the way that Stipe knocked out Verdum. But he even took like a big, I'm going to call it accidental. I don't believe the elbow was blatant from Tyson Fury. There's a lot of MMA fans out there, and if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably an MMA fan over a boxing fan. But yeah, Tyson Fury is definitely like a swing and cling, dirty fighter, but he's not a dirty cheat fighter. I don't think the elbow was deliberate. I don't think he trains to throw elbows. He's a boxer. And it was honestly Tyson Fury's worst night and Francis Ngannou's best night, in my opinion. Man, what a feat for him. He definitely won he won the fight. Like it's a very Nate Diaz won the fight type of fight. But I mean, shit, 3 different judges on a different night. This could have easily been Francis Ngannou's fight. 3 different judges on a different night. Could have also scored this for Fury. Excuse me. Very, very close fight. And if Fury shows up like this and fights Usyk, he's going to get shit kicked. But again, I don't think Fury took this fight seriously. And I think, going into those later 7, 8, 9, there was a moment, after the 5th round where Fury started firing, getting his jab going, getting his cross going, landed on Francis. Francis has a very weird demeanor where he just kind of has his mouth open. He looks tired, but the dude fought 10 rounds, won the 10th. With one pro fight, Francis probably just became the top 4 heavyweight in the world. And there's talks about Francis fighting Wilder in MMA. That's never going to fight. That fight's never going to happen. Like, that's just never going to happen. And if Francis Ngannou and Deontay Wilder were to ever compete in MMA together, first off, Francis is never taking another MMA fight again. I've been wrong about Francis, so I'd come back to eat crow if he ever does, but there's just no way. There's too many big names at heavyweight. There's too many suitors now wanting to matchmake with Francis. And Deontay Wilder weighs 220 pounds. Deontay Wilder is a light heavyweight, and Francis weighed in at over 270. And I understand that Deontay Wilder fought Tyson Fury when Tyson Fury was upwards of close to 300 pounds and he was about 220, even hurt, but that's boxing, not MMA. If Francis fights Deontay Wilder in MMA, he will kill him quite literally, and he won't even have to throw a single strike with his hands. Deontay Wilder's legs, they're about this big around. I would crush him with a leg kick, and I am not an active fighter. So yeah, Deontay Wilder and Francis Ngannou will never happen in MMA. It's not going to happen under the PFL banner. PFL doesn't have the money to pay both of them to fight. This will probably be another Saudi, some sort of Saudi agreement. And man, we need to congratulate the UFC for their card pacing, because prior to this fight, like the show was just, the pacing was absolutely horrid. It was terrible. You could have, I mean, this wasn't go take a smoke break. This was smoke a half a pack of cigarettes and hope the fight starts. It took so effing long for the fight to get going. Let's loop on back to what's up for Francis after this fight here. He's got a lot of suitors. And you know what? I think Francis, obviously this was the right move for him. The dude got paid a F ton of money, had more success than anyone has had against Tyson Fury in recent history. Who gives a shit on if Tyson trained or whatever? We saw the fight, a very, very close fight. Could have arguably beat him. I think for Francis, imagine if he would have fought somebody like a David Chisora or a Dillian White prior to this. I think he'd beat both. I think he'd beat the Otto Wallins and tons of people. There's so many fun fights for someone like Francis now in heavyweight boxing. I really hope he kind of sticks to it. There's guys that are, Anthony Joshua. Eddie Hearn is talking about him fighting Anthony Joshua. I think that would be fun. They could throw it in Wembley Stadium. It'd be huge. But I think more realistically, maybe like a Joe Joyce or an Andy Ruiz. If I could matchmake and close my eyes and pick somebody for Francis, I would love to see him fight Zhilei Zhang, Chinese heavyweight, the one that just big southpaw with an incredible check right hook. I mean, if you guys are in awe of Alex Pereira's left hook, Zhilei Zhang, his check right hook out of southpaw fucking kills people. He's incredible. He's a giant heavyweight. He won the silver medal in the Olympics back in 2008. The dude's he's 40, but he's just a giant man that can power punch. He's durable. I'd love to see him fight. I'd love to see him fight Francis Ngannou. And then hell yeah, Deontay Wilder, the two hardest punchers ever. That would just be so fun and so awesome. And a big congratulations to Francis. He took my face and rubbed it in shit. And I'm here to eat crow. I will give him my apologies. I apologize, Francis. You did not fumble the bag. This fight was sold to us as the baddest man on the planet. Francis Ngannou would beat any heavyweight boxer in an MMA fight, obviously, and he could probably beat a lot of heavyweight boxers in a boxing match. But I think there's guys like Tom Aspinall, Sergey Pavlovich, and John Jones, and Cyril Gane that could all have 50-50 even fights with Francis. But this is the move for Francis. He's 37. He weighed over 270 pounds. He has bad knees. Why would he ever want to fight MMA again? You take way less damage in a boxing match if you're Francis Ngannou. He's durable as hell. And he doesn't have to train any wrestling, any grappling. His knees are shot. Francis just had knee replacements a year ago. Just keep boxing, Francis. You've got a huge fan base. Everyone loves you. You did better than anyone in these weird crossover MMA, YouTube, BS, things like this. Was a real fight for Francis. He took it real seriously. Huge congratulations to him. I am so excited to see what the future holds for him. I did a complete 180. I'm back on the Francis train. I hopped off. I'm back on. He did it. But I will say he's never fighting in MMA again. And for Fury, he's got Usyk lined up. That's already been kicked back out to early February, late January, which is fine. Let the guy. He has got like 7 kids. Let him go home for Christmas. The dude won this fight with the skin of his teeth, by the skin of his teeth. And I think Fury will go back and look at this and come back stronger and smarter. Moving on to the middle segment of the show, What's Hot? I have been kind of skipping over this segment a little bit, but scrolling through Twitter before I jumped on here, and it looks like the purchase of Bellator has been fully pushed through by PFL. I just wanted to touch on this really quickly because this is kind of exciting. There's a lot of big names from Bellator that I do believe will make a transition to PFL well, especially with these lighter weight classes like bantamweight. PFL should have bantamweight because bantamweight is probably the best division in MMA all around. Men's bantamweight, not women's. Women's bantamweight is bad. Not their fault. It's just not a lot of people that fight in that division. Supposedly, PFL will run the Bellator under the Bellator banner for 2 more years, which kind of sucks because I'd like to see the acquisition between them both. I'd love to see both organizations merge together. I wonder if they're going to wait for the ESPN deal with PFL to maybe expire before they merge organizations, and then maybe they can say, hey, we're going to merge A and B. Let's do a deal. Showtime is no longer doing combat sports, so I'd be curious to see where they'd go. Maybe they'd go to I don't think they'd go to Amazon because, excuse me, sorry guys, I'm still getting over being sick. I don't think they'd go to Amazon because Amazon and One have, their dealings together. But maybe if somebody knows, somebody smarter than me can take a look and see when the PFL ESPN deal expires. Maybe that's what they're waiting for. I'm super curious to see where the PFL goes from here with Bellator. If there is some sort of merger, going on, I'm wonder what banner they'd fight under, what broadcasting they'd use. Maybe they'll go straight to cable, ABC, something like that. PFL has done some pay-per-views that have really flopped, but the women's divisions from PFL and Bellator together, I think will be great. We could get Cyborg versus Pacheco. We could get a lot of bigger names in the women's side fighting each other at those higher weight classes. I'd love to see Cyborg fight Larissa Pacheco. I'd love to see Cyborg fight Kayla Harrison. So I think all of those things would be super fun and interesting. We could get guys down from bantamweight like Patchy Mix to maybe go up to featherweight and compete in any featherweight tournaments. We could see more of these Grand Prix turned into PFL tournaments. I think that'd be super interesting. There's the PFL's 145 division is pretty good. Their featherweight division is not bad. And neither is Bellator. Bellator has some decent featherweights. Aaron Pico is meddling around there. Tons of fun fighters too, like Juan Archuleta. He's a bantamweight, and I know he's over with doing stuff with Ryzen right now. But there's just a lot of really fun and cool stuff. AJ McKee, I'd love to see AJ McKee compete under that PFL banner. And I hope they re-sign with ESPN. I would love to see this merger come together and be under the ESPN banner. Number one, just for availability. Because I love to be able to just grab my phone's right here, go onto the ESPN Plus app and log on, watch my fights. I don't have to go digging, looking around for streams, whatever. Yeah, is the ESPN Plus format the best? No, but here in the US, I think it's the easiest. And if you're overseas, I'm not too sure what that means for you because I've never watched. I'm a U.S. citizen, so I'm not too sure what it's like to watch the PFL or Bellator product overseas. I hear in Canada it's not that bad with TNT if you watch UFC and stuff like that. But I'm pretty interested. I'm also interested to see what's up with heavyweight. Bellator has an interesting heavyweight roster, and so does PFL. Light heavyweight could be super interesting. All these divisions could be super interesting. If you were to dig into the rosters and kind of play fantasy matchmaker, maybe us at the Sherdog team will do a fantasy MMA merger thing. Who knows? We'll see. There's been some clamorings for that, so we'll see if we do something like that. Tell me in the comments what you guys think. If you could play matchmaker, make me a match. Give me a match from PFL versus Bellator. I'd like to see what you guys have to say. And we'll be back in just a few, and we're going to go ahead and launch the final segment of the show. All right, moving on to the final segment of the show, in with the new. We are going to talk about UFC Sao Paulo in Brazil. Um, we've got a pretty big main event, and it's a pretty big fight card in general. I've kind of picked some funky, weird fights to talk about. Both of the Bonfim brothers are on this card. I have actually, I'm not going to talk about them because I don't love the matchups that they're in. I don't love Bonfim versus Nicholas Dalby. I think they're really trying to slow roll this guy, which is fine. But man, Dalby's too much of a workhorse to take a beating that he might take. Ismail Bonfim, even though he just kind of got beat up by our guy, Mr. Frenchman, he's fighting Vince Pichel, a guy that's non-active and kind of out the door. There's a ton of really fun fights on this card. Rodolfo Vieira versus Armin Petrosian. That should be tons of fun. The prelims, I really do like the prelims. Victor Petrino versus Modestas Bukauskas. That should be fun. Victor Petrino's a muscled up, power punching son of a gun. A fight that I'm not going to talk to you guys about, but I'm really excited for is Denise Gomes versus Angela Hill. Denise Gomes is a girl that was kind of not very highly touted, but comes from a great camp, has a bunch of good training partners, and she's become a little bit of a wrecking ball. But the first fight we are going to talk about is one of our guys in this podcast, Rinat Fakhretdinov versus Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. We're going to call him Capoeira. Rinat Fakhretdinov comes in at a minus 345 favorite, while Dos Santos comes in at plus 275 as an underdog. And this is just a good fight all around. I like what the UFC is doing with Rinat Fakhretdinov. They gave him a guy. They gave him a guy like Andres Michailidis in his debut, and then they gave him a guy that came off, and this was just a fight of contenders. They gave him a fight against Brian Battle. That was a guy that had a little bit of hype. Brian Battle, I like Brian Battle. I think he's good. Coming off The Ultimate Fighter, had some eyes on him, and then they gave him Kevin Lee, which is a big name. Kevin Lee was his returning to MMA, and I really like what they were doing with Fakhretdinov. It's been a while since we've seen Elizeu dos Santos fight Mr. Capoeira. His last fight was Abubakar Nurmagomedov, and he won via split decision in a very, very close fight. That was back June 3rd of this year. Prior to that, he took a 2-year layoff when he really shit-kicked Benoit Saint-Denis. Saint-Denis took that fight on short notice and kind of got shit-kicked up a weight class, and Saint-Denis is now looking like a killer, so that is a damn good win for Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. My God, that's a mouthful of words for a name. What does he do well? Obviously, he's a good kickboxer. That's his thing. He has wins over the Leech, knockout wins over the Leech. Knockout loss over the Leech. So he can be touched, but he has pretty good wins himself. Tons of incredible stuff, like that spinning wheel kick he knocked out Sean Strickland with. That was incredible. Luigi Vendramin up weight classes. He knocked him out with a flying knee, but he hasn't knocked anyone out or hurt anyone in quite some time. His last 2 wins, he did hurt Benoit Saint-Denis, and that's a fight that could have been stopped. But again, it wasn't. Benoit is very tough. I'm just not too sure what path to victory Dos Santos has in a fight like this. Rinat Fakhretdinov, he showed that he can strike. He hurt and dropped Kevin Lee in a beautiful club and sub win last time he was out. It rocked him with a straight down the pike and then hit him with the guillotine as Kevin Lee was shooting desperation takedowns. Rinat's our guy on this show. Check the Kick podcast as a Fakhretdinov fan club. We like him here, even though he's at minus 345. I don't know the props, but go look for a submission prop on this. I could see him getting like a head and arm triangle. He's gonna get takedowns against Dos Santos. I'm surprised that they're giving Dos Santos this fight because this is in Sao Paulo. The Brazilian crowd is going to be screaming, "You're going to die, you're going to die." But guess what? It's probably not going to matter because Fakhretdinov is not going to speak Portuguese. He's not going to know what they're saying. And I think he's going to shut the crowd up. I suspect he's going to get tons of grappling success. Brian Battle, it could look like the Brian Battle fight where he just pancakes him, lead blanket, gets all over him, maybe get some ground and pound in. But I think like a head and arm triangle is something that he could look for here. Dos Santos is dangerous, so he's going to be looking to negate that damage by putting him on his back. And if he can keep him there, I see him winning this fight. I'm going to go with Rinat Fakhretdinov by submission, round 2. Moving a little bit up the card, we have a middleweight clash coming up against two semi-lingering contenders. We have Abusupiyan, Abus Magomedov versus Caio Borralho. And Abus is coming in as a pretty hefty underdog, even though in his last fight he fought the current UFC champion in Sean Strickland. Caio Borralho is a minus 250 favorite. Abus is plus 205 as the dog. And pretty interesting fight here. I am a guy that is still not fully sold on Caio Borralho. Maybe it's his striking, maybe it's his game. I am just not sure. He looked good coming off of the Contender Series. He fought twice in the Contender Series, knocked out Jesse Murray, TKO. Then he goes out there and gets a technical decision over Omar Gadzhiev, a very close fight, gets a decision over Armen Petrosyan, another decision over Makhmudmuradov. His last win is his best win, in my opinion, that rear naked choke over Michel Olazejchuk. All these names that are tongue twisters today, guys. Jesus. Michel Olazejchuk is a smaller guy, and Caio Borralho is a huge middleweight. Even though Michel Olazejchuk fought up at 205, even coming down to 185, he still looked like a welterweight compared to Caio Borralho. Caio Borralho is a very clunky striker, in my opinion, but he's big and strong. He has a good grappling game. He's very tough. He knows how to win fights. Abus, on the other hand, is a guy that is just I don't want to call him a front runner. Crazy enough, even in a knockout loss, he had more success against Sean Strickland than Israel Adesanya did, which is just comical looking back at this. He got takedowns against Sean Strickland. He, hit him with head kicks, hit him with good punches. Prior to that, he fought Dustin Soltzfutz and knocked him out in under 30 seconds, completely crushed him. That was his UFC debut. Abusupiyan's been around the block, man. He's fought in KSW. He's fought in PFL. He got knocked out by Lewis Taylor. Fun fact, Lewis Taylor and I have the same birthday. I will always tell him happy birthday, and he always responds, "You too," every year. It's been an ongoing thing for about 3 or 4 years now, which is super cool. He beat Sadibou Boussi, who is the current winner of the PFL welterweight championship, won the $1 million last season. And he has okay wins over in the PFL. This guy, again, Abus has kind of fought everywhere. The UFC was really trying to throw him in the deep water with the match against Sean Strickland, and he had a lot of success against Sean Strickland. Again, his head kicks are great. His boxing is good. When he is on the front foot and the fight is going his way, he is a problem, especially in 3 rounds. Like, yeah, he got knocked out in the second round, but he had a lot of success. And in a 3-round, if this was a 5-round fight, I'd be all over Caio Borralho. But Caio Borralho is not the same striker as Sean Strickland. He's way more defensively porous. I don't like the way Caio Borralho looks under tons and tons of pressure. I'm curious to see if Abus comes out and just gets on the front foot and just throws a barrage of strikes on him, head kicks, sticks a jab on him, gets his combinations going, gets his combination boxing going. I could see Abus just winning the first 2 rounds of this fight and then getting submitted in the 3rd round, or having a really, really bad 3rd round. But I'm just not 100% sold on Caio yet. And even if he does beat Abus, I feel like the way Abus lost against Strickland, even if Caio goes out there and beats him, I'm still going to be like, I'm not sold on Caio. And I'm going to be one of those, and everyone has their fighters that they're not completely sold on yet. Just fucking is what it is. But you can guarantee Abus is going to win the first round of this fight. You can almost guarantee it. He is just more of a dynamic and venomous striker than Caio. And Caio is not a round one finishing guy typically. So you can almost bet that Abus is going to win the first round. And then all he has to do is win another one. And Caio is not a very damaging striker. Yeah, he may get some takedowns and may get some control, and maybe he loses the first round and then gets takedowns and controls the last 2 rounds. But the way fights are scored with the current MMA scoring criteria, damage, impact reigns supreme on everything. And I think Abus can just win the first 2 rounds of this fight. And if he doesn't die in the third round and he doesn't lose or get submitted or finished in the third, I do think Abus has the ability to win the first 2 rounds. Give me the underdog here. Abusupiyan Magomedov to win a close decision. I guarantee he's going to win the first round. At least I'll give you that. All right, we are here. Moving on to the final fight from UFC Sao Paulo. We have Jailton Almeida fighting the semi-short notice replacement in Derrick Lewis. Almeida's coming in as a pretty hefty favorite, minus 450, versus Derrick Lewis coming back at plus 380. And shout out to Derrick Lewis for taking this fight off of a brand new negotiated contract. I know that this is not the most favorable matchmaking for him. However, he did just knock out another Brazilian in Marcos Rogério de Lima with that crazy jump knee and tons of vicious ground and pound. Even still to this day, Derrick Lewis has massive, crazy ground and pound. He also came in, impeccable shape for Derrick Lewis. He had a 6-pack. He looked great. Hopefully no more weight cutting issues. Also, too, the flight from Texas, he's from Houston, the flight from Texas, he'd probably go connect to Miami and then from Miami down to Brazil. Not a terrible grip of a flight. Same time zones, too, I believe, or maybe Texas is 1 hour behind Florida. So not too much of pains when it comes to traveling. And Jailton Almeida is a dude that is absolutely streaking. He has won his last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 fights. And he's finished all of them. And most of them are within the first 2 rounds. The dude is incredible. Funny enough, he on the Contender Series, when he debuted on the Contender Series, he fought a Russian and he was an underdog and he called himself the Brazilian Khabib. Even Bisping, I went and watched this back recently, and Bisping was kind of poking fun at him for this. However, he went out there and got the rear naked choke and kind of shit kicked him. And he is a guy that has bounced around divisions. Almeida is a very large fellow, but he's not the biggest heavyweight by any means. And maybe he's still putting on size and getting used to it. But he's realized that, hey, I can go and be the faster grappler at heavyweight and have this controlled grappling game with vicious ground and pound. His like Donkey Kong punching is incredible, super dominant. These 2 guys, between him and Derrick Lewis, may be like the best ground and pound artist at heavyweight. So this is pretty interesting. Obviously, Derrick Lewis's game is to stand and strike with people, and he's always had the knack for just getting up. Derrick Lewis was on a very bad skid, but I'm glad he did re-sign with the UFC. He's making some coin. But the dudes, Tai Tuivasa, tough fight. That was a 50-50 fight, swinging and banging. Sergey Pavlovich is literally about to fight for the UFC heavyweight interim champion. And then his loss to Sergey Spivak, that is the one where he was just kind of getting hit, tossed, and thrown around the octagon. He did not look himself. He did not look confident. I do believe he had weight cut issues and health problems going into that fight. Derrick Lewis is a guy that is kind of low-key had some health problems throughout his UFC career, but he is a guy that can effing bang. Him and Matt Brown hold the current UFC record for most knockouts, and this dude might F around and beat Matt Brown. He might go out there and get a knockout this weekend. However unlikely it may be, based on the odds, it is unlikely. Almeida is a guy that has such a fast takedown and such a good scrambling and controlling grappling game while delivering punishment. He was able to take down and horse around a dude like Shamil Abdurakhimov, who's a very large heavyweight, similar size to Derrick Lewis, but a better grappler than Derrick Lewis. And Derrick Lewis, he's fought everybody. There's no need to talk about all the dudes he's fought. He fought Cyril Gahn back home in Houston. He lost via knockout, but then he went out there and flatlined Chris Daukaus. That was before his losing streak. And he put some good wins together. He was on a good winning streak, He beat Blagoy Ivanov by a split decision in a close fight, went out there and beat Ilir Latifi, knocked out Olenek, and then knocked out Curtis Blaydes, which may low-key be his best win. Just the way he timed that uppercut on Curtis Blaydes was deadly. He did get knocked out by Mark Hunt, but prior to that, he's knocked out Travis Brown, knocked out Shamil Abdurakhimov, beat Roy Nelson, knocked out Gabriel Gonzaga. The dude has just fought everybody. There's no reason. You can go to Sherdog.com if you really want to look at Derrick Lewis's record. But if you know Derrick Lewis, you know Derrick Lewis. My notes haven't been updated on Derrick Lewis in the past 4 years. He is a swing and bang guy. He is a guy that, and he showed in his last fight, he has very slept on speed and athleticism, and he's got very good timing. When he sets up his strike selections, the way he, the jump knee to knock out Rogerio de Lima, he's a fucking heavyweight that weighs 265 when he comes in, and the way he just hit Rogerio de Lima with that jump knee, that switch knee, Jorge Masvidal was in the audience, that was just dope and awesome. But the uppercut, the way he found that uppercut, all it took was one takedown attempt from Curtis Blaydes, and it was like a cartoon with the little birdies flying over Curtis Blaydes, flatlined him. Funny enough, Curtis Blaydes is winning most of the striking and won the first round of their fight very cleanly, striking with Derrick Lewis. Do I think Jailton Almeida can strike with Derrick Lewis? No, I don't. And it was alarming. He in the Shamil Abdurakhimov fight, right when he went to go shoot that first takedown, Abdurakhimov cracked him. Can Derrick Lewis crack him? Oh, damn! Derrick Lewis can knock out any human on this planet. There is not one human that can just take a cold punch from Derrick Lewis. He's going to knock out anyone. He has the ability to do so. We were talking about heavyweight boxers. Would I pick Derrick Lewis to beat Francis Ngannou in a boxing match? No. Do I think he can knock out anyone in the world, though? Yes. Do I think he has impeccable timing and an array of shots that he can use? Yeah, I do. Jailton Almeida's game, I think he's probably just going to he's probably going to look for a low single, pick Lewis's leg up, kick him out, trip him down. There's going to be a ceiling for Almeida, though, when it comes to fighting these much larger heavyweights, and we'll see how he does against Derrick Lewis. He started to look a little bit tired and winded against Shamil Abdurakhimov, but he still went out there and got the finish. This fight should probably look like Derrick Lewis's fight with Daniel Cormier. I see Jailton Almeida taking him down, forcing him to give his back, and either punching him out and flattening him out or getting that rear naked choke, maybe punching him out, forcing him to give his neck and choking him. But can Derrick Lewis catch him in any moment? Yes. Do I think Jailton Almeida is a giant heavyweight where Derrick Lewis can just use his stand-up? I do think he could maybe just escape one or two grappling sequences and use his strength and athleticism to get out from under Jailton Almeida. But Curtis Blaydes is not a technical anti-wrestler. He is just good at it because he's strong and athletic, and he has kind of a good feel for things. But Jailton should go out there and probably finish this. This kind of sucks for Derrick Lewis, even though he did just get a brand new contract, and he's kind of become the Nate Diaz of the heavyweight division, where wins and losses kind of don't matter for him anymore. He's just there to get a fat paycheck. And if he gets another $50,000 win bonus, great. This dude may also be fighting for a flat fee on that Nate Diaz contract where, he doesn't have a win bonus. He just gets paid to show up. And I hope that's what his contract looks like because he's a fun guy. If he wins, we're going to hear something awesome. One thing about Derrick Lewis, though, he is a guy that, if you look at some of his fights, he has let the bigger moments get to him. he had that problem with Cyril Gahn in Houston, where the moment kind of got too big for him. And here in Brazil, no, Derrick Lewis doesn't speak Portuguese, and I know he's flown over to Croatia and fought dudes in Croatia. I think was it Roy Nelson that he fought in Croatia? I'm not sure. We know that Derrick Lewis have traveled overseas and fought many dudes in all over the world, but the crowd screaming, "You're gonna die" in Brazil in a foreign place. This could also be maybe too big of a moment for him. Huge step up for Jailton Almeida, because 3 fights ago, he was fighting Anton Tricali, a dude that doesn't belong in the UFC. But you just got to pick Jailton Almeida. Jailton Almeida is also my heavyweight pick for our Sherdog Fantasy MMA, so I have to ride with him either way, because I have a little bit of skin in the game when it comes to him winning this fight. I'm on Jailton Almeida. I'm going to go with round 1 submission via rear naked choke for him, but I would not be surprised if Lewis just cold cocks him. Jailton Almeida does shoot takedowns from very far away. Derrick Lewis is dangerous everywhere. Even if you get in on a bad takedown, I could see him potentially elbowing Jailton, elbowing his head off. I think Jailton needs to get inside, get a single leg, trip this big man down, and turn into a spider or a spider monkey, backpack him and just squeeze his head off. Jailton is strong. He's got a good submission game. He's got damaging ground and pound that can open up the submissions. Gonna go with Jailton via round 1 submission. I like this fight. If you are a betting man, probably bet the under 1.5. You could probably find that number closer to a plus number than minus 450 Almeida, or maybe Almeida round 1 or Almeida by submission. This fight card should be fun. Again, I kind of broke it down for you guys, when I started going over stuff, but it starts a little bit later in the day, which is nice. And we had a week off. And I got skin in the game with Jailton Almeida for the Sherdog Fantasy. If you are curious, you should go to Sherdog.com and go listen to that show. It's me, Mr. Ben Duffy, Mr. Keith Schillen, and Mr. Jay Petrie. All 4 of our big brains fused together, picking MMA fantasy. Pretty fun stuff. That's the show, guys. Check the kick. That's the sign. Sherdog.com. That's the website. Thank you for tuning in and enjoy the fights.